Hi, my name is Paul Sundin. I'm a CPA. Today we're going to talk about when is tax day, or for people who don't file tax returns very often, what is tax day? But before we dive into it, I want to make sure you hit the like button and definitely subscribe to the channel, and that way you're notified when new videos come up. Today our topic again is what is tax day or when is tax day? We're going to talk about what that day is. We're going to talk about what you can do if you can't meet that deadline. We'll also talk a little bit about how it relates to corporations, partnerships, and also the extension process. But most importantly, most people want to know when tax day is for individual filers. This date is ingrained in many people's brains in America. April 15th of 2023 would be the deadline to file a 2022 tax return. And this is for individual taxpayers, okay? Many people who earn below the tax thresholds or do not have certain types of earned income are not required to file a tax return, but for the vast majority of adult Americans, this is going to be a critical date for you. This is the date that not only you have to file, but actually you're supposed to pay your taxes for the prior year, okay? Very important date. You don't want to miss that date. We'll talk about the penalties that are involved. But if you can't file by that specific deadline and you can't pay, you want to make sure you file an extension by April 15th. Now, every American under the law has a right to request a 6-month extension of time. That actually takes the date from April 15th to October 15th. That gives you an additional 6 months to actually file your tax return, okay? But just because you have an extension, that is merely an extension of time to file the tax return, it isn't an extension of time to pay. So if you owe your taxes, or if you feel you're going to owe any money, you want to write a check and get that into the IRS by April 15th, okay? If you don't, you're going to start to accrue penalties and interest. We'll talk a little bit more about what that is. A lot of clients used to come to me and say, well, how much do I know I'm going to owe if I haven't filed my tax return at all? Well, and I would always say, well, you're going to have to make an educated guess. And if you overpay, then you're going to get a refund back for that excess, or you're going to get to apply it to the subsequent year. If you underpay, you're going to have a penalty. You know, if you feel like you have an ongoing filing requirement and you're definitely going to owe taxes, you might want to pay a little bit of excess. That way you can avoid those penalties, okay? So if you think you're going to owe $10,000 in tax, but you don't know because you just literally haven't done anything for your tax returns yet, file that extension, write a check for the $10,000, get it in, okay? If you're not sure that you're gonna owe, you just really have no idea, you may just wanna file an extension and get an extension submitted and not write a check with the extension. Now, extensions are filed under Form 4868. You can easily find these online. You could submit them electronically. Variety of different ways you can submit your extensions, okay? It's very critical that you submit your extension by April 15th if you're not able to file your tax return by tax day. What happens if you can't get your taxes done and you end up filing an extension? What happens if you don't submit your taxes or your extension by the tax deadline? Well, then you've got a problem. If you actually end up owing taxes, then your penalties are going to be 5% a month on the amount that you owe, capped at 25%. In addition, you're going to owe interest based on the federal applicable rate. And in addition to that, you're going to have non-payment penalties, which are going to be 0.5% a month plus interest. So moral of the story is these taxes and penalties can add up pretty quickly. It's not unusual for someone to fail to file, owe 10 grand, and a year down the road, they pay the 10 grand and then another $5,000 in penalties and interest. Non-filing penalties are the worst type of penalties that you can have. Interest is usually not going to be that bad, but it's that 5% a month that you want to get away from. So definitely file your taxes timely or file an extension. Most business owners will file extensions. Make sure you get the final tax return then filed by October 15th. If you don't file it by October 15th, then your extension actually lapses. Your due, your payment and your non-filing penalties are going to be due back subject to the April 15th deadline. Very critical to get the extension or your tax return filed. Penalties, as you can tell, are pretty huge. Same with interest. Extension payments, extension amounts, and in the form are very simple and easy. In fact, a 4868 is just a one-page extension, and it's very simple to get that in and submitted. You can do it electronically or you can manually do it. Just make sure you get it done. I wanted to make a note about partnership and S Corp as well as C Corp tax days. When you're filing a S Corp or a partnership, you want to make sure that gets done by March 15th. That's going to be the critical date for you. If you don't hit that deadline, you're actually going to have non-filing penalties. They're going to be a per partner, per entity filing penalty. Partnerships and S Corps generally don't pay taxes, so that's just going to be a filing for the actual partners themselves. But make sure you get that in, and that gives you, again, another extension to get it done by the deadline. And in fact, that's going to get you up to September 15th, another 6-month extension, so that you can get that filed, and then partners and shareholders have the ability to file their individual tax returns by October 15th. C Corp extensions have changed. They actually have to be filed by April 15th every year. So the tax day for C Corps is the same as S Corps, a 6-month extension to get your taxes filed timely. So you're going to have that October 15th. Now these returns have very different penalties assessed. You also have estimated tax penalties, so it's going to be over and above the scope of this video. But you have to understand that tax day is relevant to individuals as well as to S Corps, partnerships, and C Corps. It shows the importance, hopefully I've demonstrated the importance of filing an extension by those deadlines to make sure you get it filed and in timely, because you want to avoid any of the non-filing or late payment penalties. Hopefully you've learned a little bit about the tax day and the associated penalties. Again, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and we're going to get you many more informative videos in the future. Thanks.